Okay, so on the severity of shock, it is the broadly it is classified in two types. One, compensated shocks, and second, a decompensated shock. Compensated shock, when body is compensated to that mechanism to become normal itself, nothing is required.
ꯋꯦꯇꯤꯡꯗ
However,
ꯂꯩꯌꯦꯕ
in
ꯑꯗꯨ ꯚꯤꯗꯤꯑꯣ
decompensated
ꯃꯈꯣꯟꯗꯤ
shock,
ꯂꯣꯏ ꯇꯥꯔꯦ.
body is unable to recover that condition by its own. So in all the decompensated shock, medical assistance may require to that patient. The resuscitation may require. The compensated shock, what happens actually when the initially a patient went into any kind of that kind of different kind of the pathophysiology, but at least there is the hypoxia of the tissue, means body that the tissue body tissue is not getting proper oxygen. So the first reaction to the our body is that releasing the catecholamine, that and our cells respond to that catecholamine and causes the vasoconstrictions. So this due to this vasoconstrictions is the compensation, is the part of the compensation, means that due to this catecholamine circulations, body starts acting to compensate that hypoxic condition. So in the process of doing that, the heart rate is increased, the tachycardia is, it occurs, and due to the that in peripheral dilations, the skin that become cool, means, and the blood is accumulated in peripheral circulations. So in the act of the compensation, body take the blood from this part, these organs where the blood is accumulated, and gives the blood to that our vital organs, just like kidneys, lungs, brain, and hearts. Because one of these four things, if one of these four, if any part, any organ, any system is not acting, then there may be the serious consequences, the death may also occur. So to protect these parts, body take the blood from the skin, muscles, and our GI tract, so that because these, if for few times, these for sometimes, if the our skin and muscles and gastrointestinal tract becomes little hypoxic, then it will be less danger than if our kidneys, lungs, or brain or heart undergo into the hypoxic condition. That's why to save the patient, to save that this these conditions, patient bodies just try to compensate and take the blood from this skin, means that non-vital body parts, skin, muscles, and GI tract, and supply blood to the kidneys, lungs, brain, and heart. So this is the compensatory mechanism that occurs in the our body during the shock condition, if person is in a very initial condition, in initial condition, and the criteria is that if the volume loss, uh, look, all over the study we are doing the shock that keep in central the hypovolemic shock, because ultimately hypovolemia should be there in all kind of the shock. So if initial loss is less than 50%, the circulatory volume loss is less than 50%, and then if below 15%, body can compensate, and for this no active treatment is required. The body can compensate this condition and patient become normal after few hours and few days maybe. Understand? Means this compensatory mechanism, it occurs by itself, but the limit is if the volume is lost less than 15%. If volume lost less more than 14%, then body cannot compensate by its own. Medical assistance may be required. So in this compensation, the process of this compensation, one condition is called the occult tissue perfusion. Occult tissue perfusion. So occult tissue perfusion is nothing, that is the duration. That is the duration till that our body parts are getting hypoxic. Occult high tissue perfusion means that duration, for that time body is trying to compensate, or our patient is getting the medical assistance. So that duration, in that when our tissue in that the duration, that body tissue is going into the hypoperfusion, that is called occult tissue perfusion. So what happens usually, usually this when the patient get recovered, and this due to this compensation, then that may causes the serious injuries to other body organs. Why? Because that metabolic waste, and that lactic acid which is accumulated during the process of the hypoperfusion, and when the body, and along with some that inflammatory cells also come due to the where the hypoxia is developed. So when the body is recovered, so that these things which is accumulated in the process of the hypoperfusion, they again go went into the complete body organ, complete body parts, that called the ischemia reperfusion effect. And due to the ischemia reperfusion effect, some other body organ gets serious injuries, and they may increase the mortality rate, they increase the infections, and increase the multiple organ failures. The chance of multiple organ failures due to this ischemia reperfusion effect we discuss later. Actually, why we discussing here? Because we, if as a medical practitioner, we have to identify the shock very early, and we have to reduce the duration of this occult tissue perfusion, to reduce the serious mortality, to reduce the serious damages which are going to occur in our body during the reperfusion. Understand? So that's why early identification is very important. We have to reduce the duration of this occult tissue perfusion to avoid the serious injuries, multiple organ failures, and to shut down the function of the other body organs. You may see that a person which is have shock, and for that 2 to 3 days, that person remains in that conditions. After the when 3 days, 4 days, when the patient is getting recovered, and suddenly gets liver failure, heart failure, lung failure. So that is the due to the reperfusion injury, ischemia reperfusion injury. We discuss later. So here the compensatory shock, when the patient has lose the volume less than 15%. So in till then patient can compensate its own by taking the blood from the skin, muscles, and GI tract, and giving to the kidney, lungs, and brain and heart. In the meantime, if that main reason of the shock get resolved, then patient can recover by own without any medical assistance. Then the decompensation condition is that when the body is further losing the circulatory volume. So due to that excess losing of the volume, body is unable to compensate that, unable to compensate that shock. Means the compensation is not done by the taking blood from the non-vital part to the vital part, and in that uh, in this way, the disease, that the condition is progressed, and ultimately that our the vital organs, renal, means kidneys, brain, lung, and hearts are not getting proper blood flow, and they starting shutting down one by one. usually that heart is getting means that this the blood flow is also bodies try to compensate in that manner that most vital parts get the more blood, and it comes in very late condition when that part is heavy losing the blood. Just like in first kidney will less blood, then our lungs will less blood, then heart, then brain. Understand? So heart is very important. That's why the blood pressure is maintained very until very severe conditions. You may see the patient have the shock, but the blood pressure is normal because the heart is getting proper supplies, but other organs are not getting supply. So that because if once heart is stopped, then patient is died. That's why bodies try to compensate and try to give the blood to the most important organs to remain live that person. So understand means more than 15% if lost, then patient is going to the decompensated conditions when the blood coming taking from these non-vital parts and giving to vital parts is not sufficient. Patient may require medical assistance, that resuscitations may be required. So that in decompensated there are three categories: mild, moderate, and severe. So what are the feature of the mild shock? How you identify it? Usually in the compensatory conditions, no clinical features are there. Only the cool peripheries may be the and little tachycardia may be the feature in compensatory conditions. In decompensated, in the mild cases, in the mild case of the shock, patient may have little tachycardia, tachypnea, and a mild reduction in urine output. But the patient may maintain the respiratory rate normal, and patient may maintain his blood pressure normal. Only this tachycardia heart rate may be increased, and patient had the urine output little bit reduced, and patient may exhibit that anxiety. Some anxiety may be there along with the symptom of that compensatory shock may be there. The patient's full peripheries means that limbs may be cool and sweaty, and the capillary refilling time may be increased. So these are few features of this mild shock. uh, Blood pressure is not a initial feature of the shock. Don't go for the blood pressure in the shock conditions initially. In the initial conditions, blood pressure is not important. In initial conditions, cool peripheries, sweaty, sweat, tachycardia, tachypnea, and urine output is very important to identify the condition, which condition patients your patients are in the mild shock. These features may be there. In the moderate conditions, when the shock is progressed from mild to moderate, then that the compensatory mechanism fails and the urine output reduced 0.5 ml per kg per hour. Usually the normal output is 1 ml per kg per hour, 1 to 1.5 ml per kg per hour. But if it is reduced less than 0.5 ml per kg per hour, then you have to consider your patient in the moderate shock. The tachycardia may be there, and now the heart is also compromised, so the blood pressure is starting fall. Patients may have some drowsy and a mild confused state. Patient may not oriented to the time, place, or person, where the person is there, what time is there. Understand? So now that little uh, move forward from anxiety to the drowsy and mild confused state. In the severe condition of the shock, patients may have profound tachycardia, heart rate may be more than 100. Patient may have hypotension, blood pressure may be non-recordable, or the diastolic pressure may be non-recordable, and urine output may be zero, and patient may be unconscious, or the respiratory respiration is labored respiration, kinestroke breathing may be there. So these conditions, if you're there, you consider your patient in a severe shock conditions. And these occurs when the patients have lose more than 30% of the circulatory volume. So here the basic things which you should keep in mind always. In compensatory conditions, patient has no visible clinical features, only little tachycardia and cool periphery may be there. In the mild shock, patients may have tachycardia, and along with some tachypnea may be there, and urine output may be reduced, but blood pressure is normal. Blood pressure is maintained properly. In the moderate conditions, blood pressure is starting to fall. Patient may be drowsy, mild confused, and urine output dips to the 0.5 ml per kg per hour. In the severe conditions, profound tachycardia, profound hypotension, urine output zero, patient may be unconscious and labored respiration. So you see, you can see the clinical features that in the compensated conditions, only lactic acidosis that can be measured by the base lactate through the blood investigations, or only positive. Other urine output is normal, patient is well conscious, respiratory rate is normal, pulse rate is normal, little bit blood pressure is normal. So heart rate is little bit increased, but not so much. So in the compensatory condition, patient usually have no uh, 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 very wide range of clinical features. Only few clinical features are there. Just you have to identify only, because early identification is the key to success in condition of the shock. If you early don't identify early, you delayed, that causes the occult hypoperfusion, and that causes the ischemia reperfusion injury to that patient. So as early you identify, you try to overcome it, to give the medication and try to treatment, so you can save the life of the patient. In the mild cases, you see the lactic acidosis plus 2, urine output is normal, mild anxiety is there, and respiratory rate and pulse rate increased, blood pressure is still normal. In the moderate conditions, that urine output reduced, patient may become drowsy, tachycardia, tachypnea, as well as blood pressure is little start falling, hypertension. In the severe conditions, severe lactic acidosis, urine output zero, patient may be comatose, labored respirations, tachycardia, profound tachycardia, and result see in the severe hypotension conditions. But there are some pitfalls. Means some classical features or some classical signs may be also incorrect, because just like in a capillary fall, usually the capillary refill time is 5 seconds, but in some patients it from initial it may be little delayed. So you cannot completely rely on the capillary refill time. You have to look the complete picture also. Just like in the tachycardia, if any patient has some kind of that pacemaker, if patient already has the pacemaker, so that patient may not have the profound tachycardia in the case of the shock, because his heart maybe not respond as it should be responded in that conditions. So that's why patient may not have tachycardia. And just like the blood pressure, usually some patients usually have the blood pressure little bit lower than normal or little higher. Suppose a patient has normal blood pressure 140 by 90, it may occur some patients they usually have the high blood pressure 130 by 90. So in the case of the shock, it will may reduce up to 110 and 70, but it that patient is in the hypotension conditions, because his normal blood pressure is always high. So that in the shock condition, if you record that comes into 110 by 70, and you consider is that is the normotensic, but that patient may be into the hypotensive condition. That's why you cannot rely only few features. You have to see the complete pictures. You have to see complete patient, complete features, that patient may be in the shock or not in the shock. Then we discussed the earlier the ischemia reperfusion syndromes. So it is not nothing, just when a patient remain for longer time in the hypoxic condition, so due to that, we discussed already in pathophysiology in the cellular state that when the cells become hypoxic and respiratory season cease, the respiration seizures, that in that condition that lysozymes are there, they autolysis the cells, so complete cellular materials comes to the blood flow, and that lactic acids developed due to that hypoxia comes in the blood flow, and that local inflammatory cytokines, histamines, these are come, these should not be in the blood circulated, but these all come to the circulations. So when a patient remain for longer time in that condition, so that tissue collects these kind of these unwanted things, just like lactic acids and other metabolic waste, and other inflammatory cells, macrophages, and other cells. So when patient recover, when this patient recover uh, with these shock conditions, and again the blood pressure is rises, the circulation become normal. So when the circulation become normal, then these that lactic acid, that the potassium, and these all the things again recirculate in whole body, which which are limited to that particular organ, which were going to the under perfusion. So when it is recovered, then these again these things are recirculated in our body, and these can lead the severe injuries to the some other some very important vital organs, just like heart. This potassium, this that may cause the myocardial depression, that patient may went into the cardiac failure, and that causes the vasodilations, and that may cause the further hypertension. And these some cellular or the humoral contents, just like this leukocytes, macrophages, these components damage the endothelial tissue, and when they flush back into the circulations, they further damage the endothelial injury of that organs, and in the lungs and the kidneys. So these leads acute injury to the lungs and the kidneys, so that may cause the lung failure, kidney failure, liver failure, so that may be fatal for the patients. So what is the main things to means keep in mind, that if you have identified the shock early and you reduce this the duration of the shock in the patients, so you can save your patient from the ischemia reperfusion injury. That is very important. You have, may have seen, especially in the burn cases, when the shock patient initially remain in the shock for the longer duration, 1 day, 2 days, 3 days. So when after 3 days you see patient is little improving, but suddenly the patient collapse due to the lung injury, acute heart failure, liver failure, and kidney failure due to this ischemia. That condition is due to ischemia reperfusion injury, reperfusion syndrome. That is called ischemia reperfusion syndrome. So to save your patient for the ischemia reperfusion syndrome, you have to reduce the duration of the shock. As early you identify, you start the resuscitation, you will save your patients. The consequences of the shock, there is a, either you can means initial uncompensated, later you can it may go into the unresuscitable stage where you cannot recover the patient, and multiple organ failure may be there. Now the management of the shock. So in the management of the shock, three things are very important. First, the resuscitation. Second, monitoring of the patients. And third, you have to treat the underlying cause, whatever the cause of the shock. Just like in the cardiogenic shock, the heart condition may be the just hypovolemic shock. Patient may have the losing blood, or patient may have the losing circulatory volume. So you have to correct that condition. Similarly, whatever the in obstructive shock, any embolus is there, or cardiac tamponade are there, pneumothorax is there, whatever the condition is behind that shock, you have to treat that, and you have to do all these three all these three things simultaneously. Means you cannot do that. First you resuscitate patient, then you start monitoring, then try to treat the underlying cause. No, you have to do all the things simultaneously. You have to start resuscitation along with monitoring and trying to find out what is the cause behind the shock, and you have to do accordingly that correct that underlying cause. So in the resuscitation, two things are important. First, the fluid, and second, the drug. So drug is second things. Drugs are never first thing in a try to management a shock condition. The first thing in the resuscitation of the shock condition, that is the fluid. You have to give the proper fluid to that patient, because that uh, shock patient is always in the hypovolemic conditions. And initially, if you know the exactly what is the exactly cause of the shock, then you always consider your patient into the hypovolemic shock, and then you start giving the fluid to your patient. And before is means in the process of the doing the resuscitations, you may have to do simultaneously the clinical examination of the patient. You have to take the history of the patient, whatever attendant are there, how the injuries happen, what injury may be happen, how this condition is appearing. Understand, means the simultaneously you start resuscitation, take the history and do the examination. Any sometime a visible injury is there, sometime no visible injury may be there. So that's why you have to take the history. Patient may have sometime patient may have little open injury in the legs, but at the same time patient may have some concealed hemorrhage in the abdomen, also some liver spleen injury or liver injury. So that's why examination is also very important, and history taking is also important. If patient is actively losing blood, then operative hemorrhage control should not be delayed and resuscitation should be proceeded in parallel to the surgery. Means if patient is you have seen that a patient have an injury and actively blood is losing, so you have to do correct that thing also. Means you have to stop bleeding the also. In the same time you have to do the resuscitation also. You cannot delay anything. If you delay resuscitation, you will lose the patient. If you rely only on resuscitation, you are not controlling the bleeding, you will lose the patient. So you have to do that's why the trauma centers always there are a team, and every person do have to do their own job. No, means a single, it's not a job of a single person. It must be a team. So simultaneously you have to do the multiple jobs. But if a patient is not actively losing blood, then just your focus should be with the fluid therapy. First you give the fluid therapy, and then have to underwent the surgery. Sometimes some surgical conditions, the surgical conditions are there, but that immediate surgery is less important than the resuscitation. So in that cases, you can just postpone surgery for few hours and few days. Just like if patient has the intestinal obstruction and you see the patient is under shock, so first you have to correct the shock, and you can delay this surgery for that obstruction later, when your patient is little stable and patient is able to handle the anesthesia in that case. But if suppose a patient has a very large wound in the limbs, then in that case you simultaneously you try to uh, stop the bleeding and give the fluid to, and don't wait to make the stable the patient. So you have to do the same time. Understand? So what fluid should be there? Usually the, if a patient is actively losing blood, then blood is the best to replace. But usually initial blood may be not available there. So if you see that patient is losing blood, then first start the crystalloid solutions, and in the same time you have must send the sample of the patient for that cross matching, so that you can know what blood you are going to require in coming hours. So first line therapy is always fluid, and in the IV fluid prefer that crystalloid solutions, which are uh, able to increase the circulatory volume. Don't go for the crystalloid or not that much effective as colloid is not much effective as the crystalloids. And always administer the that fluid with a short wide bore needles initially. Means you may give 1 to sometime 3 IV cannula may be required to increase the to give the bolus fluid initially. So these crystal that fluids the blood. If blood is losing, then you have to give blood. But initially you may shift to the first crystallite that include the normal saline, Ringer's lactate, Hartmann solutions, or some. Then later you can give the blood, and if blood is not available, then you can give some that colloid solution just like the albumin or some Hemacil, just like the plasma expanders to expand the volume. Avoid to give glucose containing fluid because glucose is all is diuretics. So if you give the DNS or D5 D10, they may not able to elevate the circulatory volume level, and that may not help in the controlling the shock conditions. So don't go for the glucose containing fluids. Go for the normal saline Ringer lactate. Ringer lactate is the blood. That's just a first choice should be there. Ringer lactate. If you have, just give the first Ringer lactate. Then the dynamic response means whatever the fluid you are giving to your patient. So how you measure that your patient is getting benefited by that or not. So that determine the dynamic the three things are very important, that in the monitoring you have to look for three things: heart rate, blood pressure, and the central venous pressure. When you initially one question will be the how much fluid may be required. So usually a patient, if you consider your patient is under shock, then just 3 liters is the minimal fluid requirement for a person in 24 hours. So you have to give the 3-liter solutions in the next coming 24 hours. But out of these 3 liters, first 1 or 2 liters should be given in the initial 45 minutes. Understand? So you see in that 2 liter in the initial 45, you may give 20, initial 250 to 500 ml initial 5 to 10 minutes. Means very fast. You have to give bolus fluid to that patient so that patient get benefited initially, and patient may not land into the severe conditions. You have to control that patient may remain in that mild conditions. You should not go into the, if you give the slow fluid, then patient may land into the moderate as well as the severe condition. That's why initially within 45 minutes 3 liters fluid you have to given. Later on depends on the requirement. If your patient is recovered from the shock, then patient may not require the fluid, but that depends on the what is the underlying cause of that shock also. That is also important thing. So on the basis of this heart rate, blood pressure, and CBP, you can categorize your patient responder, transient responders, as well as the non-responders. So the responders means the patients improve in their cardiovascular status, means the heart rate and blood pressure is little bit improved, but and the patient is not actively, it means the patient is not actively losing blood, and the patient is not actively losing the fluid. So that patients are considered under the responders. Transient responders are initially when you give the fluid, patient with response, cardiovascular response, heart rate and blood pressure is it comes to the normal. But after 10 to 25 minutes, 20 minutes, the patient will gain to again same conditions. Again heart rate increases and blood pressure falls. It means your patient is having actively losing the fluid, either by hemorrhagic or the non-hemorrhagic. Then comes to the third category, that non-responders, when there is a no benefit of giving this fluid, patient is no response in the heart rate and the blood pressure. It means patient is controlled, patient is having uncontrolled hemorrhage inside, other concealed inside or outside. So first you have to control the bleeding, then and along with these resuscitations, till if you're not controlling the hemorrhage, your patient will not respond. Okay, so the drug, and we will just come back. We will come back again for that to complete this topic.